So step one is you're gonna pour a little bit of this medium that says gloss on the side, about a quarter's worth, about like that. If you get too much, it goes back in this container or you give it to someone else. Okay, this is where we use our palette knife, and you wanna go quickly. So I'm spreading this pretty evenly. I'm not gonna scrape it too hard because I wanna leave it kind of thick and even everywhere. So actually that was the right amount. And go all the way to the edges. If anybody would like to actually come and look over my shoulder and see this like right live here, you're welcome to come join me up here as well. Okay, first step with the blue and our natural bristle brush. I'm gonna hold the brush underneath my hand like this, okay? So I'm grabbing it from underneath, the fingers on top. 3 fingers if it's a larger brush. This one I'm probably just gonna have 1, maybe 2 on here, okay? The purpose of doing this is to help you be loose, and we're going to do X's, okay? X's along the top, okay? Another way to do it is to hold it like this as well. So thumb goes on one side, and I'm using my middle fingers on the top. Okay, this is my preferred method because it's easier to control when I'm painting flat. The other way works great if your canvas is straight up in front of you and you're standing to paint, you're painting in front of you. This works really well if our canvas is on a table and we're looking down at it. So you're gonna make some crisscrosses like this. Now to load the brush, this is how we load the brush, because there's specific new ways that we're loading the brush. We're gonna tap in the paint. If you're making notes, I'm gonna write that down. Tap in the paint. What type of brush are we using? Natural bristle brush. So I'm gonna tap in the paint. I'm gonna take a little bit and I'm gonna tap it off to the side. And if your brush, when you first get it, is wet, you wanna get as much of that wet off because we want a dry brush to use this, okay? Again, we're not using water today at all. So I've loaded this in, I've tapped in the paint, okay? Now I'm gonna start at the very top and I'm gonna do some crisscrosses, okay? I'm lightly putting it on there and I'm gonna blend as I come down. And I'm not going to go over every spot a bunch. It's blending as I come down. Some of those lines that I first put, go over it a second time. And this is a really light, delicate touch. Clouds will start to appear. If you go over everything really solidly and even and like the same amount of pressure every spot, you're not gonna get the clouds that will start to come to life. They've already started to appear. You guys can see that already. I've got some clouds that are starting to happen. And that's one of the fun things about the natural development here. Now this brush now has the white that's on it. I wanna get that off. So what I'm gonna do is just push really hard on here, okay? Get as much of this off as you can. We're using these natural bristles because these are strong. They can survive being mushed and mashed in here, okay? I'm gonna load more because one of the focuses that we're doing here is we need high contrast at the top, which means our dark needs to be much darker. The background is gonna blend from dark to light, but don't forget about the texture as well. We don't wanna like totally blend it away. So I'm just gonna enhance by making this darker. And I'm thinking about my clouds, where my clouds that started to naturally happen are gonna form. And I'm just using this light touch to kind of crisscross and blend. Dark, I even need it darker. So I'm gonna clean my brush off. I'm just scraping it on here, off camera. Pick up some more and really let that be pretty blue at the top. You can dab it in and then spread it with that delicate touch. Now it's dark at the top and it's light down here at the bottom. Now I'm ready. I'm gonna clean this one off just by rubbing it on the rag here. So off screen, I'm just getting as much of that paint off as I can. Gonna set it off to the side. I'm ready to pick up my natural bristle brush. So this is step 2. So step 1 is to make the sky dark to light with that texture and the clouds start to appear. 2 is now I'm actually gonna paint my clouds now. So to paint my clouds, I'm gonna be using this natural bristle brush. Okay, I'm gonna load it. I'll put it in the screen here so you can see. I'm gonna load just the tips of the bristles. So I'm pulling from the side. I'm gonna evenly load it. So you can see it's just the ends of the bristles that have the paint on it. Okay. I had a little bit too much, so I just got some off. Now, when you come in and land this brush, I'm gonna land, look at the shadow that happens. Can you tell by the shadow that only a tip of the brush is touching? Yes? You guys can make a sound now. Okay, I'm gonna come in from the side. And then as I push down, those bristles at the top, right up here, use my other hand. These bristles at the top up here, those ones are barely touching the canvas, whereas the bristles at the bottom got squished. So I'm gonna come in at an angle like this, okay? And I'm gonna do little circles. And that's how you get your cloud, okay? If you over blend it, then your cloud is gonna become flat. Just picked up blue. I wanna get that blue. I'm gonna get that blue off. Pick up some white again. And I'm going to, again, come in at an angle, nice and slow. It's very tempting to just go straight back to white with this, but don't do it, okay? Get as much of that blue paint off as you can. Pick up some more white. I'm gonna blend in another cloud here. Okay, you don't want to overwork it because then it won't look very natural anymore. I'm gonna add in another cloud down here, and my clouds are gonna start to get skinnier as I come down here. Okay, so I've got some clouds. Now I've got those cloud shapes, so I'm gonna brighten up the tops of it. So I'm gonna grab some white paint, and you can like dab it along the top like this, right? You can also do the same like swirling mark, okay? But it goes just kind of close to the edge. I'm gonna do one that kind of goes like this as well. A little bit maybe right in here, maybe a little bit more right there, and a little bit more there. So I've got some bright in a few places. Down here towards the bottom, the parts that are bright, if any even show up, it's only gonna be a few. Okay, I got that white paint off. Now I'm ready to take this brush. This is step 3, is now to fluff the tops of the clouds. So with this natural bristle fluffy brush, I'm gonna pull up on the clouds. So I'm gonna pull up from the edges. Okay. Little, small, quick, light, delicate strokes. You see how that just fluffed that out? So fluff. And you don't want to over fluff. Only in some places do you fluff. Okay. And you also want to add some dimension to the middle of the cloud. This cloud looks pretty similar. I'm going to add some dimension by adding some white there, fluffing it. Now I have another cloud that came in through there. Okay, next step is the background down here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix a medium blue. I'm gonna take white, mix a little bit of blue with that. Okay. What type of brush is this? Synthetic, yep. So I'm gonna come in, oh, that was too dark. I can tell it's too dark because it looks lighter than everything else that I had. Or sorry, it wasn't dark enough. I need to make it a little bit darker. Okay. Now I can cut in. Notice that the brush is this direction. I'm going this way, not with the full thing of it, just sideways. I'm gonna cut in and I'm gonna make my clouds smaller along the horizon. Okay, so smaller along the horizon here. Okay, and I'm gonna bring this down, cutting in, okay? And with this that I have here, I'm gonna take just a little bit of brown, tiny little brown. That was even too much. So I gotta add more white and blue. There we go, okay? Now I can start to do some of the horizon. So see how it's barely different? Okay, I'm gonna bring some of this in here for my land. Can mix some brown and blue together to get some darker values and start to bring those in. We want to see dimension and interest down here in the land, okay? But we don't want detail. So that's a challenging thing to try and do, but I want you to give it a go. This brush here adds some really cool texture. So you can bring in some fun texture. No, that didn't work. And bring in some fun texture to the bottom. The horizon edge right here definitely need to have that be kind of blended because we want a fuzzy horizon. So on my palette, I'm just mixing a color that has more blue and is lighter. So when I paint it, it just fits kind of right in there. Even more blue. I'm kind of working my way up. That's now sky, but it's kind of hard to even tell that was like the division between those. All right, and a few last little things. If you have another brush that you want to use to do a few little details at the very end, I'm going to use a round brush to do that. I'm going to grab a little bit of white and just add like some extra little small details along the edges of some places of the clouds and some things that I know that I want to stand out. All right, if I want to grow that cloud that way. So you can start to get a little bit more precise at the very, very end with a smaller brush. Okay. If you want to come in and even use that brush to make it darker at the very top, you can just grab some blue and be like, oh, no, I want to make that even darker there too. And maybe darker over there as well. So I'm going to be more specific about where I add some really dark areas. And I don't want that texture to stay like that because that looks very different than the rest of the painting. So I'm going to use my brush here to kind of, ooh, wrong color on it. Still the wrong color. To just work with the texture a little bit so it starts to blend a little bit with the other texture that was around. There we go. There we go. Now there's some fun texture in there. Okay. When you sign it, you're going to sign it on the land. You don't have to wait for the paint to dry before you take it off. This is one of the more satisfying things to do, is to take the tape off and see the pretty edges that happen. And to sign, you're going to use either a pencil or a ballpoint black pen. I'm going to be using a ballpoint pen to sign mine. because I know for sure where it's gonna go. It's best to sign it once it's dry. I'm gonna go ahead and sign it right now. I'll probably have to go over it again later, but I wanna show you guys about signing. So when you sign, okay, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see the corner there. Okay, you wanna leave some space of paint here and on the side. So my signature is gonna go right in this space. Whoa, definitely gonna wait for that to dry. That was a mistake. Sometimes things happen. There we go, just fix that a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna wait and sign that later, but the signature itself would go in between my fingers right there. Okay, not down low, definitely not on the white of the paper. It's gonna go right about there.